Here we are. Good morning. What a pleasure to see you here in Berlaymont, the Jean Monnet room. This is the room where every Wednesday the College of Commissioners has the college meeting where all the decisions are being taken. So I hope that good decisions are being taken also today. A very warm welcome to all of you for the third Clean Tech Transition Dialogue that we have. I'm very glad to see so many representatives of different industries, of renewables, of EV charging stations, batteries, green steel, but we also have the social partners and we have the financial sector. So a round setting of all those who have a stake in that topic. At the beginning of this week on Tuesday, I was at the European Industry Summit in Antwerp. It was organized by the Belgian presidency. It was an excellent summit. And the main message was, yes, the industry supports the climate goals, 2050, 2040. We support the Green Deal. It's not a discussion about the what. We want to be involved in the discussion about the how we are getting here. And this is exactly why we are sitting here today. And this is our task. We want to discuss with you. We have now the framework, the legal framework we have finished. Now we have to fill it with life. And this is a very important phase because now we write, for example, the guidelines, which is the interpretation of the law. How is it meant? And here we want to listen to you. What is it what you need to be successful in reaching the climate goals so that it is tailor-made, the frame is tailor-made for you, or the environment is tailor-made for you to be successful. So what you need is predictability, you need clarity, and this, of course, then creates the confidence we also need. Now, all this takes place not in a closed shop, but in an state of play where we have huge geopolitical tensions and, of course, the pressure of climate change, which is just ongoing. And therefore, let's have a look at the beginning what the state of play is. As I said, all 27 member states have agreed and decided on the climate goals. We have the climate law, so the goals are cast in law 27 times. That is very good because we have full unanimity on that in the European Union. We also have separate targets for renewables, for hydrogen, for CCUS, for clean tech manufacturing. Why that? Because we think only what gets measured really gets done. You know it from your business. You need facts and figures to see, are we on track, or do we have to speed up, or are there other obstacles we have to overcome? This takes place in an environment and an economy that is remarkably resilient. You know the figures. We have the lowest unemployment rate ever. Actually, it's below 6% right now, and employment rate above 75%. Hidden in this is a little bit, it's not only a big success, it is a big success, but also is hidden in this the beginning of the effects that we have a lack of skilled labor. I would even say we have a lack of labor. So this is something to discuss also in this group. Inflation is progressively falling. That is good, back towards the 2% target. And the GDP growth is expected to reach 1.7% in 2025. This is all good against the backdrop, and that we should not forget, that we just overcame a severe pandemic. We were barely recovering when Putin started his war in Ukraine, and then we were hit by a massive energy crisis. If you see the economy against this backdrop, you understand that it is a robust economy that we have. But I want to have a look at three topics where we can support you more and better. One is energy, the second is funding, and the third is international partnerships. Let me first reflect on energy. The situation, as I just said, after the severe energy crisis, actually the worst energy crisis since 40 years, has stabilized. That's good. We're back to pre-war levels. but it is structurally still higher than in other regions of the world. And you know that it is for you a question of competitiveness that we even have lower energy prices over time that are structurally accessible for you. We should not forget, a year ago, the energy crisis was just slowing down. What have we done? And I think we should also keep that in mind. When the war started, when Russia started the war, it took us 4 to 6 weeks that Putin started to cut the gas and oil delivery to the different member states. You might recall that. We should not forget that the energy prices went up tenfold in summer than what they were before the beginning of the war. And I think together we have moved mountains. We have first of all asked our friends to help us. And immediately the United States and Norway and others stepped in with LNG and pipeline gas. Secondly, we have saved energy. Energy efficiency has increased. We have built the necessary infrastructure, interconnectors, terminals that were necessary. You have done an outstanding job in convening all the different member states and even more for a joint procurement platform. And you will later on certainly tell the extremely successful figures that we have at the moment being. But the most important part in all this was the third element, and that was that we massively invested in renewable energy. That is homegrown energy and cheap energy that creates good jobs here and is accessible for us here on the European continent. And if you look at the figures, let me give you a few. 2 years ago, 1 in 5 units of energy consumed in the European Union came from Russia, 1 in 5. Today, it's 1 in 20. That says a lot. For the first time ever, we were able last year to produce more electricity from sun and wind than from gas. Actually, it's 44% of our electricity that now comes from renewables. And of course, not to forget, also nuclear energy plays an important role. So the principle is that we have, first of all, we had diversified away from Russia, so more diverse supply chains for the traditional energies. But over time, the direction of travel is absolutely clear. Go into the renewables, homegrown energy. This is not only good for the planet, but it's also good for our energy security and thus our independence. Of course, the job is far from done. So, as I said, we still have to work on structural solutions that the energy prices compared to the rest of the world are lower. And we have now measures in place to make this happen. You're familiar with the new Renewable Energy Directive. We created the wind package. We have the Net Zero Industry Act, and we have the taxonomy for nuclear energy now. So this is not only, as I said, about climate change, but it is also a lot about energy security, that the framework enables now the change that is so necessary. This was energy. My second point is on funding. We have mobilized unprecedented sums of public funds, also to leverage private investment. So the first big chunk is Next Generation EU. You recall this is the 800 billion fund we created during the pandemic to smoothen the economic downturn of the lockdowns. And here, 37% of the funds have to go into the green transition. Actually, the member states are overshooting. I think they have planned now 40% into the green transition. And this is combined with Repower EU, our answer to Russia's blackmail. And if you look at the figures today, the European Union and the member states have committed 150 billion of these two funds into the clean energy transition and the investments for that. Second point, we see that clean tech is one of the biggest beneficiaries of the European Innovation Fund. That's good. For example, last December, we committed 3 billion euros from the Innovation Fund for Europe's battery value chain. We have now the new hydrogen bank, also 3 billion in it. And earlier this month, member states and the European Parliament reached an agreement on the so-called STEP. What is STEP? STEP is a fund where we want to generate investments in critical technologies of around 50 billion euros. And it has the principle that not only the generation of the 50 billions, but also the usage of the funds we do have already in the European Union, and to make them accessible for you. Today, your problem is that you have a jungle of funds ahead of you, and you wonder, how do I access this one, or which one is the right one for me? We want to help you here. And we create a one-stop shop where you go and show your potential product, for example. Then, if you are eligible as a clean technology for one of these manifold different funds, you get a seal. And it's our job behind the one-stop shop to look at what is the best funding option for you and to help you to access it. So we turn it around. It's not you who has to find the way through the jungle, but it's us, the ones who have the knowledge, who clarify that for you. What you have to bring is the product, the idea, the potential field of investment, and we do our job on our side. Of course, always with the goal to crowd in private investment also then too. My third point is international partnerships. We have learned the bitter lesson that I described just with the over-dependency on Russian fossil fuels, and we've understood this is not healthy. So we have to make sure that you have access, for example, to critical raw materials, that you have access to the elements you need in the different supply chains. And for us, it's very important to diversify our supply chains, thus to strengthen them. As you might have observed, we have created Global Gateway, which is our 300 billion investment fund for investment in infrastructure abroad. And here, with Global Gateway, we create comprehensive partnerships with different regions of the world and different countries to diversify our supply of, for example, critical raw materials, and therefore to secure your access to these critical raw materials. Let me give you one example. We have observed that China over the last 20 to 30 years has strategically bought mine after mine after mine globally. They take the raw material, they have the processing procedures in China, and then they have the monopoly for this raw material. Take lithium. 97% of the lithium we use in the European Union is from China. This is not good, 97%. So we are totally dependent on this one, on China. What we do now is we talk to other countries in the world, like, for example, Chile. We've just done an agreement on lithium to diversify the supply chains so that we have not, again, a situation like with Russia, an overdependency and then the potential for blackmail, but that you are free to look at the different strong supply chains that we create together with our partners, so that you have the security of access. Here, there's a second element where we should be vigilant. That is when there is no fair play, no level playing field. You're very familiar with that topic. If I take China again, the electric vehicles on our market are heavily subsidized. And China has an enormous overproduction, overcapacity, which they channel mostly to the European market because the United States are closing their market already to Chinese vehicles. So we have to be very careful that the market here is not flooded by electric vehicles that are available for dumping prices because they are so heavily subsidized. And we look into the mechanisms that are behind these cars, for example, or other products. For us, it's important that you compete on fair ground, on a level playing field, on quality, for example, but it has to be fair. And therefore, if this is not the case, we have to take our instruments to support you to create this level playing field. This is the big topic of economic security that we have developed. And indeed, the last point is we support our industry to compete on quality, if not on price. And here we have resilience and sustainability requirements that are included, for example, in the Net Zero Industry Act that we have just adopted in Parliament and in Council. So there's still a long way ahead of us. We need to focus on the enablers for a clean power system. We need to invest in smart grids and energy storage. We need to give you more access to the capital markets. And we have to boost nascent technologies such as those included in our recent industrial carbon management strategy. So just to highlight the tasks that are ahead of us. Again, here, the goal is that we have this clean tech dialogue to understand what is it, what hinders you to reach the common goals that we have. How can we support you? What are the details that are typical for your sector and not in others? And therefore, I put a lot of emphasis on this one here. We will have a report on the outcome of the strategic dialogues, I think in April. Help me? Yeah. So ready to go before the next meeting of the European Council. And therefore, your input counts today. Thank you very much for all being here. Maros Sefcovic has done an outstanding job already with the other strategic dialogues. He's well known to you.